Good morning, everybody. Good morning, sis. Thank you for being here and sharing and being a great support. You guys are probably going to end up hearing the dog. Well, maybe not. He just got a toy, so maybe he'll lay down and chew on that while I'm doing this. Thank you, Willie. Hello, Facebook. I am glad to be doing AA meetings here for all of you. If you're a newcomer, welcome. My name's Sandra. I'm an alcoholic. And some of the rules, please don't bully people in here. No judgment allowed. This is an AA meeting. What prompted me to do these? The love to help others and to pass on a gift that I got for free. That is my main purpose for doing the AA meetings on my platforms, and letting people know that they're not alone, that there are others that suffer just as they do, and there is a way out. So my watch keeps going off. I don't know why. Anyways, this thing's being all kinds of weird. Anyways, just because people are in the chat or leaving comments doesn't mean that they are the alcoholic. They could be here just as support for my channel, or they are just wanting something to listen to, and some of them might be looking for ways to help family members or friends who are suffering. So please be mindful of that and don't go and harass them and judge them. That's all I ask. And I always put in the description the page number and the story we're on and what book we're reading. So that is in the under the video. If you're watching the replay, it has a description and more. If you push more, it will bring up what book we're reading and the page number and story. This thing is being crazy. I'm turning it off. Anyways, so let's get into the meeting. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrong. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And I'm going to go ahead and read the traditions today. Tradition 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3. The only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. 4. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5. Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to alcoholics who still suffer. 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. And we are in the big book. I have the fourth edition. If you have a different one, it might be on the in a different page. So that's why I put the name of what we're reading on there. So today we are me and alcoholic. Alcohol's ringer squeezed this author, but he escaped quite whole. When I try to reconstruct what my life was like before, I see a coin with two faces. One, the side I turned to myself and the world was respectable, even in some ways distinguished. I was father, husband, taxpayer, homeowner. I was clubman, athlete, artist, magician, author, editor, aircraft pilot, and world traveler. I was listed in Who's Who in America as an American who, by distinguished achievements, had arrived. The other side of the coin was sinister, baffling. I was inwardly unhappy most of the time. There would be times when the life of respectability and achievement seemed insufferably dull. I had to break out. This I would do by going completely bohemian for a night, getting drunk and rolling home with the dawn. Next day, remorse would be on me like a trigger. I'd claw my way back to respectability and stay there until the inevitable next time. The incidence of alcoholism is an appalling thing. In all the 25 years of my drinking, there were only a few occasions when I took a morning drink. My binges were one night stands only. Once or twice during my early drinking, I carried it into the second day, and only once that I can remember did it continue into the third. I was never drunk on the job, never missed a day's work, was seldom rendered totally ineffective by a hangover, and kept my liquor expenses well within my adequate budget. I continued to advance in my chosen field. How how could such a man possibly be called an alcoholic? Whatever the root of the unhappiness might turn out to be, I thought I could not possibly have booze, or could not possibly be booze. Of course, I drank. Everybody did in the set which I regarded as the apex of civilization. My wife loved to drink, and we tied on many a hooter in the name of marital bliss. My associates and all the wits and literary lights I so much admired also drank. Evening cocktails were a standard as morning coffee, and I suppose my average daily consumption ran a little more or less than a pint. Even on my rare, at first binge nights, it never ran much over a quart. How easy it was! How easy it was in the beginning to forget that those binges ever happened. After a day or two of groveling remorse, I'd come up with an explanation. The nervous tension had plied up and just had to spill over, or my physical plant had got a little run down and the stuff rushed right to my head. Or I got to talking and forgot how many I was taking, and it hit me. Always we'd emerge with the new formula for avoiding future trouble. You've got to space your drinks and take plenty of water in between, or coat the stomach with a little olive oil, or drink anything but those dang martinis. Weeks would go by without further trouble, and I'd be assured I'd at last hit on the right formula. The binge had been just one of those things. After a month, it seemed unlikely that it happened. Intervals between binges were 8 months. My growing inward unhappiness was a very real thing. However, and I knew that something would have to be done about it. A friend had found help in psychosis, or however you say that word, after a particularly ugly one nighter. My wife suggested I try it, and I agreed. Educated child of science or scientific age was that I was. I had complete faith in the science of the mind. It would be a sure cure and also an adventure. How exciting to learn the inward mysteries that govern the behavior of people. How wonderful to know at last all about myself. To cut a long story short, I spent 7 years and $10,000 on my psychiatric adventure and emerged in worse condition than ever. To be sure, I learned many fascinating things and many things that were to improve helpful later. I learned what a devastating effect it can have on a child to coddle him and build him up and then turn and beat him savagely as he had happened to me. Meanwhile, I was getting worse, both as regards my inward misery and my drinking. My daily alcohol consumption remained about the same through all this, with perhaps a slight increase, and my binges remained one-nighters, but they were occurring with alarming frequency. In 7 years, the intervals between them decreased from 8 months to 10 days, and they were growing uglier. One night, I barely made my downtown club. If I'd had to go another 50 feet, I'd have collapsed in the gutter. On another occasion, I arrived home covered with blood. I deliberately smashed a window. With all this, it was becoming increasingly hard to maintain my front of distinction and respectability to the world. My personality was stretched almost to splitting in effort. Schizophrenia stared me in the face, and one night I was in a despair. My professional life looked fine on the surface. I was now head of a publishing venture in which nearly $1 million had been invested. My opinions were quoted in Time at Newsweek along with pictures. I addressed the public by radio and TV. It was a fantastic structure built on a crumbling foundation. It was tottering and it had to fall. It did. After my first binge, I came home and smashed my dining room furniture to splinters, kicked out 6 windows and 2 ball trades. When I woke up sober, my handiwork confronted me. It is possible for me to reproduce my despair. I'd had absolute faith in science, and only in science. Knowledge is power. I'd always been taught. Now I had to face up to the fact that knowledge of this sort, applied to my individual case, was not power. Science could take my mind apart expertly, but it couldn't seem to put it together again. I crawled back to my analyst, not so much because of my not so much because I had faith in him, but because I had nowhere else to turn. After talking with him for a time, I heard myself say, "Doc, I think I'm an alcoholic." "Yes," he said, surprisingly, "you are." Where was I? "Then why in God's name haven't you told me so during all these years?" "Two reasons," he said. "First, I couldn't be sure. The line between a heavy drinker and an alcoholic is not always clear. Wasn't until just lately that in your case I could draw it. Second, you wouldn't have believed me even if I had told you. I had to admit to myself that he was right. Only through being beaten down by my own misery would I ever have accepted the term alcoholic as applied to myself. Now, however, I accepted it fully. I knew from my general reading that alcoholism was irreversible and fatal, and I knew that somehow or that somewhere along the line I'd lost the power to stop drinking. Well, Doc, I said, what are we going to do? There's nothing that I can do, he said, and nothing medicine can do. However, I've heard of an organization called Alcoholics Anonymous that has had some success with people like you. They make it no guarantees and are not always successful. But if you want to, you're free to try them. It might work. Many years in the intervening years, I have thanked God for that man, a man who had the courage to admit failure, a man who had the humility to confess that all the hard-won learning of his profession could not turn up the answer. I looked up an AA meeting and went there alone. Here I found an ingredient that had been lacking in any other effort I had made to save myself. Here was power. Here was power to live to the end of any given day, power to have the courage to face the next day, power to have friends, power to help people, power to be sane, power to stay sober. That was 7 years ago and many AA meetings ago. And I haven't had a drink during those 7 years. Moreover, I am deeply convinced that so long as I continue to strive in my bumbling way towards the principles I first encountered in the early chapters of this book, this remarkable power will continue to flow through me. What is the power? With my AA friends, all I can say is that it's a power greater than myself. If pressed, all I can do is follow the psalmist who said it long before me. Be still and now be still and know that I am God. My story has a happy ending, but not of the conventional kind. I had a lot more hell to go through, but what a difference there is between going through hell without power greater than oneself and with it, as might have been predicted, my teetering tower of worldly success collapsed. My alcoholic associates fired me, took control, and ran the enterprise into bankruptcy. My alcoholic wife took up with someone else, divorced me, and took with her all my remaining property. The most terrible blow of my life befell me after I found sobriety. Through AA, perhaps the single flicker of decency that shone through the fog of my drinking days was a clumsy affection for my two children, a boy and a girl. One night my son, when he was only 16, we suddenly had tragically killed. The higher power was on deck to see through sober to see me through sober. I think he's on hand to see my son through it too. There have been some wonderful things too. My new wife and I don't own any property to speak of, and the flashy success of another day are no longer mine. But we have a baby who, if you'll pardon a little post alcoholic sentimentally, is right out of heaven. My work is on a much deeper and more significant level that it ever was before. And I am today a fairly creative, relatively sane human being. And should I have more bad times, I know that I'll never again have to go through them alone. And that's that story today. Um yeah, the throughout the whole book it always says the hard part is admitting to yourself. It truly is, because until you admit it to yourself, you're not going to believe it. And like I keep saying, it is a forever life change. Um, Being an alcoholic is never going to go away. So that's why we work our steps every day. And we go day by day. We don't go overboard on our planning, because sometimes when we do that, I know for me, anyways, sometimes when I do that, I get all hyped up, like, yes, I'm going, yahoo, and then something happens. Well, in order to be able to find the humility in that change, just have to laugh and go on. And, maybe you'll be able to do that later on. But if you don't have humility in things in life, it's just going to be blah and depressing and disappointing. And that's not how we want to be. For us alcoholics, recovering alcoholics, we need to just go day by day and always remember that we are sober and we can do the hard things together. We can get through it with our higher power, with the help of the AA group and all the friends that we make there. And, you know, I have two sponsors. I have like four sponsees, and I have these platforms that I share on that is what gets me through my bad days. Last week was awful. Um, I didn't think I was going to make it through last week, but here I am. Today is the following week. Um, I don't have a job. I sit at home. Um, Pretty soon I'm going to be going on a cleaning binge to get rid of stuff. My husband's on vacation for 12 days after next week, so we're gonna get a move on and get stuff gone that we don't use, and get stuff organized so we can get into our spare room. Right now it's full of stuff that we don't use, so that's a must. And for your sobriety, you're gonna have bad days, but you're also gonna have good days. And I can tell you, my good days overweigh every single bad day beyond measure. Um, I've lost family members and stuff like that, and I have been able to cope with that a lot easier without saying, "Oh, I gotta go get a drink," Um, which before, um, I would just drink. I wouldn't care. I'd just come up with whatever reason. And that's what us alcoholics do, is we concoct a reason in our minds on why we need to go get a drink or why we're going to just sit here and drink alone, um, and be lonely, which is never fun. And and I don't I don't have to worry about those days anymore. I'm 9 years and working on this. I've got 9 years and 1 month in a few days, or one day. What's today? Yeah, 9 years and 1 month yesterday. So how I do it is I don't read my books all the time. I'm not going to say I do. I read them here, and that's about it. However, I do work my steps every day, and when I'm wrong, I do promptly admit it because I know if I don't, I'm going to hold that for too long, and it's not good to do that. It is good to um, just state it right there, you know, not too long after, and being able to know when things are tough and stressful and you don't feel like you can make it, just know that you can. We are given things that we can do, and it sometimes is very, very, very hard to deal with. I'm not going to play it like it's not because there are those really, really hard days. I was thinking a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, maybe when I turned 9. Um, so my father-in-law passed back in 2013. He knew I was an alcoholic before I even admitted to myself. He didn't see me sober before he passed. I didn't make it through that funeral without alcohol. That was my last. I want to say, yeah, that's my last funeral that I attended that I drank at. I didn't drink there, but yeah. But he didn't see me sober, and I know he's up there in heaven watching over and cheering me on. Um, I wish I could have been sober while he was here, but I was part of his family for 27, almost 27 years. Can you believe it? So my oldest son will be 27, or no, he'll be 28. Holy moly, we're coming up on 28, not 27. But being sober it's hard to do every single day. It's not easy all the time. I have to admit that. I do still have those days where I want to scream the F word at everybody. I want to argue and scream and shout and just let it go. But I still have great days. Even though I sit here at home with the dog, this dog makes me laugh. He kisses my tears away. He is the best companion I could ask for. Chubb was Chris's companion. But yeah, so having Copper does help me a lot. Um, because I do have those down days. I do have those days where I just want to cry all day. And that was last week, I cried pretty much every day last week. I also have depression and anxiety, and I've come to having panic attacks as well. So, um, for me, I do have really bad days where I just lay in bed and I just want to cry and not have anyone see me. But I do still do these meetings even though I don't feel like doing it that day, because I know if I don't do it, I'm not going to feel great, because I know this helps someone. Yeah. And it just gives me purpose, gives me something to do every week, twice a week. And then, of course, for my ventures on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are always fun. But yeah, sobriety is great, even on those days where you just want to give up. It is, because you're feeling those emotions for real, and you're not uh self medicating for that. My left hand, it just, maybe I'm coming into some money. Yeah, probably not. But anyway, so yeah, bad days, good days, we got sobriety. We can do it. We're strong. We can make it through. Um, the first day is the hardest day, but you can get there. Just keep going. Don't give up. Don't give in. Please don't give in to that nagging thing saying, drink me, drink me, drink me, because it's not worth it. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your money. It's not worth your relationships. The alcohol is not worth anything. It's just going to make you feel like crap. And then you got to start all over again. And that's one thing that has kept me sober is I go around alcohol anytime I go to my parents' house, or, I see my sister, but it's not my sister drinking. Um, but those times I see the alcohol, it doesn't bother me, because I know that if I do take a sip of that, number one, I'm going to not stop. Number two, I got to start this all over again. And I'm not willing to drop 9 years worth of sobriety for a drink to end up dumb and back in the lonely bin, of being the practicing alcoholic. I would not trade any sober day for that. I'll keep my sober days and keep going. And um, yeah. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and say the Serenity Prayer for Facebook and YouTube. Stay here. I'm going to read the daily reflections. I will post it on my wall on Facebook, which is the daily reflections. Please read it. It can help you with just about anything. So I love you guys. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Logging off of Facebook. Okay, here we go. Let me get there. Okay. Today is December 16th. I'm going to call my grandma when I'm done here because it's her birthday. Okay, partners in recovery. Nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. Both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 89 to 100. Doing the right thing for the right reasons. This is my way of controlling my and self centeredness, selfishness and centeredness. I realize that my dependency on a higher power clears the way for peace of mind, happiness, and sobriety. I pray each day that I will avoid my previous actions so that I will be helpful to others. And with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon and the rest of your weekend. And be safe, stay sober. If you're struggling today, don't give up. You can do it. We can do it. You have to want it for the right reason, and you are the right reason. So please keep going. Don't give up. Love you guys.